Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
702-759-9799. I want to welcome back to the program. We got the Senator from District 5, Bryan King, is with us. Bryan, welcome back, sir.
Hey, good to be on, Paul.
I want to talk about the Arkansas Legislative Council or Committee or whatever met on Friday, and I understand there's a $300,000 contract in play. What can you tell us about all this?
Well, once again, it's another task force. I mean, there's some well-meaning people in it trying to do what they can, but these tax farces have got, it's just so ridiculous. It would be a joke if it wasn't costing taxpayer money. I mean, at a time that you're turning out, bad people out of jail without service and sentences, hardly at all. You've got a crime problem, epidemic crime problem with no solution from Asa Hutchinson other than a bunch of talk and another task force, and shoving everything off on the poor feds that are overburdened anyway, law enforcement, and that's basically what he's doing. He has no solution for it, nothing. And we're not even taking care of the truly needy on the disabled list. He's wanting to raise taxes for highways, everything else. Now we're going to spend $300,000 of people's hard-earned tax dollars on another consultant. Mm-hmm. Now understand, Paul, I've been down there 11 years. You know what? We've got an excellent staff people to help get information. You have the National Conference of State Legislators out there that have staff people to help get information about what's going on. You have a lot of different groups and organizations that you can bring in. If you really want to study this issue, once again, we're paying $300,000 to another consultant at a time when we could be spending that money on things far, far more better. Total waste of money. But, of course, this legislature just wants to continue to spend.
So let me rephrase. The premise of my question was a little misinformed. So it was the task force on taxes. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it was them that hired this $300,000 consultant to help them figure out how to raise more revenue for the state to cover their spending problems. But it was the Legislative Council on Friday that had to approve it, so I brought it up just to try to pull it out and have a discussion. No, there was a few of us that, once again, there's a few of us looking out for the taxpayers. The rest of them go with Jim Hendren and want to spend the hell out of the money, And at the time, like I said, when we need to...
Uh-oh. Bryan? Yes, sir.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's on mine or your end, but basically, Legislative Council approved this $300,000 that this tax force committee wants to spend. And once again, we're spending $300,000 of your tax dollars on another consultant at a time they want to raise taxes on the internet and raise taxes for highways, but they can send $300,000 to a consultant.
Unbelievable. At some point, and if you were to ask them, I feel like if you were to ask them to cut, like if they had to cut $300,000, I just don't think they can. We need to cut millions of dollars from what we're spending. But, the idea of them not going ahead with this is at the end of the world to them. It's inconceivable to most of the people down there to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like when they came back with these possible part-time, work requirements and rolled people off, and that's their goal. Well, that was good. But the reality is when you have 300-something thousand, rolling off 50, 60,000 of their estimates, which if you know anything about Jonathan Dismaying, the one thing about his estimates is they're all wrong. Mm-hmm. And, they hire his best friend. As, you give a lot of money to Blue Cross, they'll hire, Dismaying's best friend. But I'm telling you, they have to be making much, much more drastic measures right now in state government, but they can't even don't even want to have a discussion on stopping $300,000 for another consultant, which if you need a consultant to look over it, this has been looked at before. We've had committees look over this before. We have staff people. If you need $300,000 on a committee, you don't need to pay that. And Josh Miller brought up, well, how about looking at spending? Well, Senator Hendren, all-time record spending Hendren for, senator, says, well, we already looked at spending. Well, he's right. They did. And they spent and spent and spent. Again, record spending levels set in Arkansas. And, it's just another thing of how they just keep going and keep spending now.
Yeah. Real quick, Brian, I got to correct the record. Something I said when you dropped the call. I went off to the Centerton special election where 150 people voted. There's actually 7,000 registered voters in that town. It's a population of 12,000. I got it reversed just a second ago, so I want to correct the record. Hey, Brian, let me ask you this. I just broke a story where Jan Morgan got uninvited last week from the Cricket County Republican Committee, and that they denied that it was because of pressure. And now I have an email from Doug Smith, who works out of the governor's office, that he is trying to pressure the Mississippi County Republican Party to not have Jan Morgan speak there. So we do know at least now one county is being pressured to not let her speak. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, get ready for the Hutchisons. They sit there and even with me, they try to do everything to discredit. J.R. Davis gets on Ellswick and says, Bryan King's misleading people, won't specifically say what I've said that's wrong. I go out and say everything. I line out the facts and figures, and he says I'm wrong and doesn't come back. But I'm telling you what, the Hutchisons, you're going to see the dirtiest bunch of politics out of these people, because you know what? They've done a horrible job. You sit there and have all the things that we've talked about, you've talked about on your show, about what's been going on in Little Rock and all the corruption, and you start having all these things come up in the news, unfortunately, and you know what? The Hutchisons are all around it. And they're in power. And yet Asa Hutchinson never speaks out against any of that or does anything. It takes a monumental thing to force him to say it. And then Jim Hendren in the caucus, which I don't agree with, said, well, recent revelations, Paul, have brought us to do this statement.
Talk about Jake
What
Files.
recent revelations have you been ignoring? And, they just keep wanting to cover it up. But get ready for the Hutchisons, because they know to hold on to power, they've got to do the most dirtiest politics out there possible.
This is something you would see from the Democrats. We got the email up on the screen right now.
It's dirty politics. It's the Hutchisons. It's just the way they are. And, them, Jonathan Dismaying, a lot of them, all they know, they can't take you on the facts. They don't want to come on the Paul Harold program and talk about this or that.
No, they don't.
It's just like we go back to SB 96. We said all along it wasn't going to end Medicaid. What did Jim Hendren do? Sit there and said, oh, no, it was, and everything like that? It never intended was to do it. It did, so they don't want to do that. They just want to call you names. They want to sit there and say you're wrong. They want to sit there and say you're angry. They want to say, they want to just sit there and say all this stuff. And it's dirty politics. They cannot continue to hide the truth. It's oozing out. Despite the press not covering it down there, it's oozing out.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
And they're afraid of Jan Morgan. They're afraid of the truth. So what do? That's the kind of cowardly stuff they do to try and keep people from knowing the truth.
Yeah, it really is. We're talking with Senator Bryan King. I've got this email up on the screen here, and what Doug Smith, who makes $50,000 a year, working out of the governor's office. This is basically his henchman trying to do this, and I wonder if he's doing it other places. But he says that if Republicans disagree, they should do it behind closed doors and present a united front. Now, that's obviously not the philosophy that you subscribe to, Bryan King. You call a spade a spade, and you call people out if they need to be called out.
Yeah, it's so wrong that Jonathan Dismaying, he passes legislation, and then a few months later, Blue Cross Blue Shield, who now we give almost $1 billion a year to, hires his best friend as consultant. You just need to keep your mouth shut. That's what Doug Smith is talking about, folks. Doug Smith's talking about when you see corruption down there in Little Rock and you see something wrong, you keep your mouth shut. You don't go tell people. And you know what? When you go out there and start telling people, what do? They go try and tell where you're going to go to speak. They try and say, I'm supposed to speak at the Washington County Committee meeting tomorrow night and outline everything. And you know what? They're going to have their minions there. They're going to have their people there. And they're going to have, as I'm already seeing, Bob Ballinger out there misleading people. And they're going to try and do whatever they can to keep the truth from being told about them. But unfortunately, it's oozing out, finally. And that's what that's what this Doug Smith's saying. He's saying, folks, you know what? If you see something wrong, you just come tell us. And you know what? We've done that. And you know what? It hasn't changed.
Yeah. Well,
it's just still the same, and you're going to still see Hutchison's hired. They want to keep Hutchison's hired on retainer fees.
Yeah.
And, keep getting checks. And I keep speaking out about all this Medicaid money that these guys vote on, that all of a sudden, Paul, winds up back in their pockets, their own personal pockets, folks. But Doug Smith and Asa Hutchinson, they want you to keep quiet about it.
Hey, let me ask you this, because I'm hearing about all these indictments that are going to eventually come down. And Bryan, I thought of you, not about the indictment, but I thought of you the other day because my source told me that some of this stuff with the rumors about the FBI, it may go beyond GIF, and it may actually involve the Medicaid money you're talking about here. And I thought about how you have tried several times to just pass a Medicaid disclosure bill that would require people to have to say how much money they're getting from Medicaid, your healthcare entities. And I think now, if what I'm hearing is true, we kind of know why they didn't want to pass your bill.
Sure. Why Jim Hendren? I told Jim Hendren. He talks about integrity. I said, Jim, you tried to stop it. He's tried to stop it. They haven't done nothing.
Yeah.
Asa Hutchinson didn't do anything. And let me tell you something. My bill would have took care of what's already been out there, Paul. If they would have took GIF money and then turned around and gave it to a Medicaid entity, and that Medicaid entity then gave money back to the legislator, they would have had to disclose that under my bills and efforts that I've had to do.
You can't.
But you know what? They don't want to disclose it.
No.
Jim Hendren doesn't want it disclosed. So the little establishment down there doesn't want it. It just throws the top off their little party that they've been having down there. And like I said, this Doug Smith, I haven't seen the email yet, but based on what you're saying, what he's saying is, folks, you know what? If you see something wrong and corruption and something that just ain't right, you keep your mouth shut. That's what it boils down to them saying.
Yeah, because they're afraid of somebody like, Jan Morgan just going up there and just telling them what has happened. She's firsthand witnessed what happened with Second Amendment stuff down there and what the governor did and everything else. And not on top of all that, she's now aware of all the tax increases and things like that have gone on, and how much money they're trying to take from the people, fleecing us year after year. And I think she's fed up. I know you're fed up, Bryan King. Hey, I gotta ask you, are you thinking about, have you made a decision yet about whether to run for re-election or not yet?
No, I haven't. Just still sitting here looking at things, and I really don't know, to be honest with you. I really don't. I mean, I'm still looking at it, and this is just still too early to decide. I mean, Bob Ballinger's out there misleading people already and acting like Captain Conservative, when the truth about his record and him playing with Asa down there and going back and forth and jumping all over different sides, and as we've pointed out in the Twitter deal, when you point out Bob Ballinger, and contradict him with the truth about it, next thing you know, he starts attacking me and blaming me. I mean, if you remember back to his tweets, when he got hit with the truth,
his whole
answer was,
it
was my fault.
You're talking about his support for SB 96.
And other bills. Yeah. I mean, it was like, well, if I would have showed more leadership. So, folks, all of Bob Ballinger's bad votes is Bryan King's fault. I mean, and how come Ballinger fought all the Medicaid disclosure stuff?
Did he really?
Oh, absolutely he did.
So he didn't support this last effort?
No.
He didn't support it. Now, was he the chairman of that committee? He
was the chair of that committee. He was gone one day, but he made it known to members that he was not supporting it. He made it clear. He said, lawyers should be untouchable. We should be special privileged people.
Wow.
He has made that very, very clear.
And we didn't get
that lawyers should be special down there.
Did we get a roll call on that? Do you know?
Yeah, we got roll calls. James Sturch never supported it. And then we find out, guess what? Jake Files gets $80,000 wired to him by somebody that sits on a health services permitting board appointed by Asa Hutchinson. So, I mean, we would have already known these things has James Sturch stepped up and done what's right. But they protect these people. That's just what I'm saying down there. You may not have everybody down there corrupting everything, but you have a lot of them that have been protecting these people.
So I'm trying to remember, Bryan, the day that your bill that did get out of the Senate committee that would have made Medicaid disclosure a thing, and it did get out of the full Senate, and then it died in the House committee. And you're saying which committee? Okay.
House state agencies.
State agencies, and that was Bob Bauer.
Yeah, Bob Bauer made it clear he wouldn't support it. He has publicly made it clear that lawyers are special and privileged,
well,
Paul.
I want to remind the folks that this bill was so hated that at one of the House committee the House committee meetings, somebody made a motion to do not pass, which never happens. Never have.
According to his side, has a medical health supply company.
Yes, he does. He does have a medical health.
And where is Misty Urban on this? She's opposed it too. She goes out and tells people, yeah, she's for this stuff, but folks, when it gets down there in Little Rock, they do something else. And then when you sit there and criticize or say something different, well, guess what? Here comes the slander. Here comes the dirty politics. Here comes everything. Folks, they don't want to tackle the issue, okay? They want to they want to destroy the person saying it. That's the Hutchison way of doing things right now.
Yeah.
And the establishment way down there.
Unbelievable.
They want to destroy the person. They don't want to talk about the problem, the issue, get that out in front of people. They want to sit there and mislead people. And then turn around and destroy the person, just like this Mississippi County deal.
Yep, that's exactly right. And we'll see what else they do. They're going to try to do something. I mean, right now, just the fact that I've reported it means that there's going to be more bullying. I mean, these are the type of guys that double down. They believe they have full authority and that they have the right, they think, to demand and expect complete loyalty to everything that the governor wants. And the local parties are sick of it, I'll tell you that much.
And remember when we spoke out against Davy Carter multiple times and all this, and he's a Republican and everything, I heard that Davy Carter's now a registered Democrat.
I believe I heard that too. That he switched in January to becoming a registered Democrat, the former Arkansas Republican Speaker of the House.
Yeah, and you have nothing from Dole Webb. Dole Webb has had missed opportunities to speak up and say something and stick up the party and do what's right.
He really has. And the fact that Doyle Webb hasn't called for Jake Files to resign is unbelievable to me. I can't. I don't understand that.
But look at the money connections. I mean, folks, when you start talking about the money connections out there, things make sense. And I'm telling you what, they have put this state into trouble. Like I said, we have an epidemic crime problem and no money, no solutions from Asa Hutchison, other than to criticize and stop Bryan King from actually taking measures to do that.
Senator Bryan King, I appreciate it. Thank you for being so outspoken about this, because it really does shine a light. And there are more and more people every day who are listening to this program and other outlets like it, and they're getting the truth. So we just got to keep trucking, okay?
Yeah. Folks, get ready for the dirtiest politics you've ever seen. Personal. They want to destroy the people out there trying to get you the truth more than they want to tackle the issue.
Bryan King, I appreciate it, sir.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
All right, folks, got to take a break. Back in a minute.